Hi, everyone. Welcome to the Cashflow Veteran Podcast. I have a good friend of mine, a good friend of my wife as well, and also the wife of Brandon Grone. I have Tina on here. She is a nutrition coach, and she owns Wealthfully Balanced. Tina, welcome to the Cashflow Veteran Podcast.
Thank you. Glad to be here.
Awesome. So just to get started, so we're going to get into some of the nutrition items because I've been talking a theme about health in general, but I do want to kind of touch on the history background of you, your affiliation with the military, how we met, all that good stuff. So what's your history? What's your background?
Okay. Long story short, I met a man. He was in the military and there you go. So let's see, would have been 2010. So wow, 10 years ago. Met a guy and fell in love. And that's kind of the beginning of the story. Went from Montana, active duty Air Force, over to Italy and then to California. And then it placed us where we are currently in Ohio. And then he recently got medically retired, and now we are still in Ohio just for the time being, but just kind of transitioning out of that active duty lifestyle into the civilian world. And after my husband did 11 years, I want to say it was, in the service, it's just been kind of a struggle for him to shift that gear, and we're just kind of taking our time with that new transition in life.
Yeah, so I talked to my sister about this on the podcast a little bit too, but so I can officially say I've been a dependent as a kid. I've been an active duty service member. I've been a reservist. I've been a contractor, and now I'm a dependent of an active duty service member. So what's the toughest thing that you'd say that you have had to deal with, struggle with through, those 10 years that you've been with him? Because like you said, you've moved, you lived, I think, a more traditional military life where you've been moving around quite a bit with him being a maintenance officer. What's one of the toughest things that you've had to kind of deal with the military in general, military life?
I would say it deals with my personality. I think some women are more equipped to be military spouses or dependents, if you will, than others. And it just kind of depends on that personality. If you know the Enneagram, I'm a 3 to its core. I'm an achiever. I like to do things. I like to achieve. I like to accomplish things. And just being a quote, quote, dependent took me years to accept. That word itself, I just really didn't like that I was Major Grone's wife. I'm like, hello, I have a name. My name is Tina. And that's not all that I am. So I would say in the beginning it was that. And then just the fact that being an achiever and just graduating with my master's degree and then going right overseas to Italy with 0 job opportunities, it just kind of started like a downward spiral where I thought, gosh, this is my life now and I have to accept it. And I just really struggled with it and I couldn't accept it and kind of fought it. Went through that resentment stage for quite a long time in our duty station over there. And then we got placed back in the States and I was excited, but then the struggle again with you don't get to decide where you get located at. So my background being health and wellness, I was excited because I thought California, ultimate health and wellness place. And then we get stationed where I was stationed out with you in Santa Maria. And I'm like, oh dear Lord, there's nothing here. Looked around and there was stuff, but it was, 40-minute commute or minimum. So then it just comes down to factoring all those things, gas prices, time, energy, is it worth it? All that kind of stuff. So I'd say the biggest struggle is just trying to stay true to my passion and being able to live that out and have that creative outlet with the materials and the location that I'm given.
Right. And I don't know, you and I, Brandon and Jackie have all, done different multi-level marketing companies over the years, just trying to figure it out. And I think that's what, I think it is a great model in my mind. Now, because it has such a low barrier to entry, I do find that it doesn't always lend itself to having a lot of people who do the right things and learning how to market, learning how to be a salesperson. It's just kind of like, well, here's a business in a box and here you go. So there is some problems with that. And sometimes it's really all you can do. And it's very tough to go from place to place, being able to do that. And even with, us cutting our income basically in half when I got out, I was excited to do it. But at the same time, kind of like you, I felt I was a little bit more slave to the schedule of the day with the kids and everything. And I didn't necessarily want to just, okay, well, now that I'm home and can work, I'm just going to go put my kids off somewhere. that they can be taken care of by other people. We certainly love the Montessori system, but I just didn't want to have that if we didn't need to. And so but at the same time, it still does hold me back from being a business owner as well. And that's, I think, a reality that a lot of people have to go through, being dependents, because that's kind of the nature of it. Even though it does seem like there is that 1950s family feel and vibe you get with it too.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I hear you. We have a 3-year-old and one on the way, and it's held us back in where I wish my business would be, but I just keep reminding myself that I'm growing something now for the future, so I'm doing my best that I can while trying to be actively present in my family life, which is very important. It's a strong value of mine. So just again, with my personality type, we are workaholics, and in relationships, we tend to choose work over anything else. So it's hard because I have to pull myself back and be like, this is what's important right now. I know you really want to get Tina this project done, but this is what matters right now. So it's been a battle.
Yeah, for sure. Lost my train of thought there for a second. That's a good lead in to the next question that I had. And just like kind of what your journey has been like, because you've had some of these struggles, what your journey has been like for entrepreneurship and starting a business, and also supporting your husband starting a business too. So what's that journey been like, and where did you really kind of even come up with the idea of starting a business? And then also, why go down the nutrition path?
Sure. It all started, I'm very education based. It's what I love. I love to teach. I love to inspire others. I've been a group fitness instructor since college, 2005. So for 15 plus years, I've been either a personal trainer or a group fitness instructor, and I just love it. I love everything about that motivating factor, being a part of somebody's life, giving those high fives, and knowing that you're contributing. And I've always known that about myself, but again, with the military, there's just never been a lot of options to have that feature, I guess. Each base that we were at, I was a group fitness instructor, and I did things like that. And that was great, but it still, again, being an achiever, I wanted more. And I kept getting frustrated because, quite frankly, it just pissed me off that every time I would move, I went right back to the bottom. And here I am raising up in age. Every base I'm older and older, but then my competition is younger and younger. And it just was so frustrating to me. So Brandon, I'm sure talked about with you earlier, got sick in 2017. And it was that aha moment as he laid in that hospital bed. And, I literally didn't think there were moments where I thought he was going to die, but then everyone kept reassuring me, this will pass. Well, he's going to be fine. So then I was like, okay, this is going to be fine. But then I'd have a neurologist come in and say, I don't think he's ever going to walk again. And I'm just sitting there holding my 6-month-old son at the time thinking, this can't be it. I'm 29 years old. He's 30 years old. Like, this cannot be it. And I just kind of had that moment where I've always wanted to start my own thing, because being in the military and moving, I thought, if I can just do my own thing, it's going to be easier because it transfers and I don't have to start back at the bottom and all of that. And it was just that push that I needed to overcome that fear and that barrier standing in my way. Like, Tina, if you never do it, you're going to regret this. And it's time to do something for yourself. So once my husband, Brandon, got better and we got out of the hospital and I could kind of take a minute and I realized, okay, he is going to walk again. He will lead a normal life again. And all of this illness is behind us. Then I was able to look into programs. Then that kind of was difficult, right? Because there's so many great programs that have things that meet in person, but here I am still with a baby and now a husband who doesn't have full dependent in his life. So he's still, he didn't drive for the first month or so. Once we returned home, spent 4 months in the hospital, and he was still going to physical therapy for, a year after coming home. And so that was also frustrating because I thought, I have to pick a program that's not even to my level of where I want, but I needed something all online. And, I picked it. It was a great experience. I did it for me. And I guess that's my journey into doing this. In terms of nutrition, it is based on 2 things. One being Brandon, because We talked a lot about it in the hospital with nerve regeneration because his illness was based on nerves. So they talked a lot about high fat diets, talked a lot about vitamin B12 and how that kind of stuff can regenerate your nerves. And that was already building from my dad, who's had cancer for over 10 years. And with my dad, he was a farmer, grew up on a farm, did the whole spray the pesticide with the tractor, turn back around, inhale it, all that stuff, mix it with your hands. You see the commercials nowadays and it says, if you know anybody that's used glyphosate from Monsanto and blah, 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 like call this number and you could be given a refund. And my mom has tried because that's my dad's story. My dad has non-Hodgkin's lymphoma. Well, I should say had. He had a stem cell transplant and it was successful. We almost lost him, but he's here. He's cancer-free. He has a lot of other issues after 10 years of radiation, but cancer-free. So my dad was the first shift because I went to college for fitness. So I always thought fitness, fitness, fitness. That's all that matters. That's it. And then once my dad got sick and it's like all based on food and pesticides and all this garbage, I'm like, okay, there's more to this. And then I know that we have kept him alive longer because of the fact that we have dialed in on his nutrition. We have tried multiple angles. My mom is on top of his supplements in terms of what he needs because he can barely eat a lot of things. Like right now, he has a lot of swallowing issues, esophagus issues, things like that. And so she researches a lot of vitamin protocols and stuff like that. So I guess it's a combination from my dad and my husband both being ill. And I noticed and saw, okay, it's not just fitness, it's nutrition. Now I fully believe nutrition over fitness. So if someone came to me and asked me which one's more important, I would say focus on nutrition.
Yeah, I really do agree with that very much. And I have a similar transformation where I thought it was fitness. And in my podcast where I talked about my health journey, I mean, just by doing CrossFit, but doing a 60-day challenge, like it'd taken me years to gain any weight, and I'd gotten stronger. And I was a little skinny kid, 155 pounds, running track, playing football, soccer, I mean, you name it. And I gained almost 15 pounds in a span of 60 days simply by being moderately active 3 times a week to be doing CrossFit and lifting. It's not like going to the gym for 2 hours a day, really kind of pumping it out or anything like that. And the only thing I changed was that I had a paleo challenge for 60 days and I gained 50, and I had more muscle, less body fat. I mean, it was a eye-opening for me. And then there's also a really great health food store, like a holistic health store in Great Falls, Montana. And she opened my eyes to a whole lot of other stuff as well. And having that perspective kind of change. And that's what really has gotten Jackie and I to really kind of go down this path of nutrition and more of a guinea pig. And we'll get into some of this other stuff. So that's about other people. What has nutrition done for you in your health journey?
I've never struggled with weight. So I can't say that I work hard for what I do and how I eat, but I will say genetically I am blessed. Now my husband Brandon always says, well, you could just eat anything. That's not true. There's both, right? You are genetically prone, but you could still have a terrible lifestyle and you could go one way kind of thing. And you could be softer. And I'm pregnant now, so I'm not as muscular as normal, but that's not me. That's not who I am. I work hard and I train for what I want in life. And I'd say for me, nutrition is just about feeling good. It's about not needing to wake up for that coffee. For years I'd wake up and be like, where's the coffee? It's the first thing I need, and for years I overtrained and my body suffered. So I think for me, nutrition has helped. How do I put it? It's helped gain that control in my life where I felt like life was controlling me. Now I feel like I can not necessarily everything in life, but my decisions, my mental state, all of that. It just helps keep me in path, right? Keeps me it doesn't take me down a downward spiral of sugar cravings, or I don't have there could be a bowl of candy in front of me. Now, granted, I think there's two different people in this world. I think there are like abstainers and moderators, right? Like people they know they have a sweet tooth. They either need to like avoid it or they can moderate it. So Brandon and I are totally different. Yeah. If there's a bowl of candy, I could grab 3 pieces and walk away and I'm fine. But I think that's because I'm down with my nutrition. I'm very into my mindfulness. I'm very into like tasting my food, right? So I've taught myself to taste it, to savor it, and then I'm done. And I also think about nutrition. So I also think, oh man, like that's a lot of sugar. That's a lot of carbs, fat. And my brain just like thinks about all the macronutrients in it. Or my husband's just like all of it in his mouth at one time.
Yeah, no, I'm the exact same way as your husband. I kind of have an indulgent personality to begin with anyway. So like when I throw myself into something, I'm throwing it in. So I could sit down and like eat a whole cake until I feel like garbage. And, these days I feel like garbage for days. And that's one of the things that I've noticed that I've become a lot more aware of as well. And my dad's been doing a lot better in his health journey. But again, he has type 2 diabetes and stuff. And I think that was another wake up call for me too, to seeing his progression and what he's had to go through. And, I remember growing up as a kid, it didn't matter whether we're eating healthy food or not. The fact that he was finishing everybody else's plate because he didn't want to feel like and anybody was wasting food at the table.
Yeah.
It's like, well, you're still overeating, even if it's the health stuff that's there too. So
yeah.
I think
the long story short is just helped me feel in control. Food does not control me. I have complete guidance over what I eat, and I can choose to indulge or I can choose to not. And I don't deal with that guilt and that shame cycle that a lot of women fall into.
Right. And one of the things I think what's great about that and your proclivity to want to be able to teach other people stuff too, I think is really what pushed you to go down the nutrition path of business, and why you opened up Well Fully Balanced as well. Certainly through our years of knowing you, I can tell that. So what's been, I guess, some of the struggles in getting your business started and moving it forward that you've had for doing that? But also what are some of the wins you've had on the board for your business?
Yeah. Struggles are definitely just not being clear on what I wanted to do in the beginning. I was just so excited to do something, right? I had that aha moment with my husband being sick. I went to school for over 10 months and I came out on time and I was just like, I'm ready, let's go. And I knew to be clear on my mission, and I knew to be clear on my goals and vision statement and all of that. But every time I would sit down to think about what I wanted, I could never come up with that niche. Even today, I struggle with it. And I know that I haven't found I'm getting there. I feel like I'm getting there, but it just takes those years of experimenting to really fine tune it, I feel. So I think the struggle has just been kind of throwing darts, right? Like, let's try this. And then I'm like, no, that's not good. Let's try this. And I know that consistency matters. So I've tried my best to be consistent, stay present, always continue to show up. But the struggles are, really finding what you shine in, what your audience that are watching you need, because it's all about what they need, right? You could have something great, but if they don't need it, you're not going to go anywhere with it. So it's about understanding, that question of, well, how can I help? And what can I help with? What is the problem? And then how can I solve that problem? So there's that. And then there's the struggles of, being a mother, being a wife of someone who looks perfectly normal on the outside, but still 3 years out suffers from issues from his prior illness and why he got separated from the military, and then there's just the struggles of, I think the biggest thing I've told Brandon before, in one day's time, I could go through a roller coaster of emotions as an entrepreneur, right? I can wake up and be like, this day is going to be great. I'm going to get all this done. And then I'm going to start getting it done. And then I'm going to get bogged down because I'm going to start learning about some new platform or whatever. And then I'm going to go, oh, I'm not going to be able to do this. And then you'll go down and then you have to pick yourself back up again. And then somebody will comment something on your post super nice. And then you go, oh, that's exciting. I'm doing really good, So I think the hardest part is literally showing up every single day, knowing that some days are not easy and some days they seem like you're on a high.
Yeah, fair enough. That sounds like really, really good stuff for that. And that could really help anybody else out thinking, especially not getting bogged down in all of the shiny objects that keep popping up for you as you're getting started. I know you and I were talking about this before we did our podcast, but I think it's really important to seriously just sit down and get started and come up with the simplest thing that is doable for you today to move forward. And that's the one thing I always try to go back to, encouraging people to do who are interested in starting their own business, to really kind of focus on that. I did want to touch on this a little bit too. So at least your specialization that you're going into in business, even though you can niche down further, is nutrition. So why go down the path for right now as a nutrition coach versus nutritionist? Or is being a nutrition coach now just another step to get to the nutritionist level?
It is. So seeing what my dad and my husband have gone through, it's opened my eyes to more holistic nutrition. It's opened my eyes to that everybody is an individual and every individual has a different set of needs. There is no FDA standard that we all fit into. And, when I started looking at programs, I knew a registered dietitian was going to get more credibility. And I struggled with that because as an achiever, I want that credibility. I crave that, and I thought about it hard, but then I thought about my core values and what else is important to me, which is family is a big one. And I thought, do I need to commit that much time for something just to have the letters behind my name? Or can I do it a different way that actually follows the path that I want? So I already had a master's before I sat in wellness and health. So I sit down and I think, do I really need another master's? Is it really worth the money, the time away from my family and all of that kind of stuff? And does it align with my values? And I think, I got online and job searched, registered dietitian, what if you got those letters behind your name, what would that look like? And majority of them are in hospital settings. And you're working with just like, here's a diabetes patient, here's the protocol you follow, this is what you give them. That did not excite me at all. Sure, I wanted the credentials, but that was not what I wanted. I wanted to look at a person, listen to their mental, their emotional, their physical, everything. Like I want to take it all into account and get a complete personalized approach and be a listening ear and like give them guidance on something that maybe they're not thinking of, because half the time my clients that come to me aren't getting enough sleep. It's as simple as that. But you go to an RD, they might not even address sleep. So it's nothing against RDs. They have a great knowledge. They go to school. They have to pass an exam. They have all of these credentials that they have to follow. It's just that it just didn't align with where I saw myself. So my goal with the program I chose is to become a holistic nutritionist. So it'd be to sit for a board exam and to go from there. So now, as I continue to kind of, in order to sit for a board exam, you have to have so many contact hours and you have to have so many direct interactions with clients and proof that you're building resources and all that kind of stuff. So it's kind of been what I've been doing the last couple of years, is building up that amount of clientele and direct and indirect contact hours they need. And then once I do that, then I'll begin studying. So I have a goal. I told my husband, he's like, oh boy, here we go again. Another thing that you want to do. But I have a goal of next year, and it's a year and a half away, and I'm giving myself a long time because we have a baby due at the end of this year. So I know that, puts a little bit of slow down process there, but my goal would be to sit for that board exam next year, by the end of next year. So it's kind of where I'm at.
Give yourself some grace, big mama.
Right. Yeah, exactly. I'm like, let's not go gung ho here. I remember this thing called no sleep and all of that for my first kid. So
yeah, mama bears deserve all the rest and relaxation they can get. So that don't put pressure on yourself if you don't have to.
No.
I
So
mean,
that's kind of where I'm at.
You're speaking my language, though. I mean, you've already kind of brought it up a couple of times, and I would be remiss if I didn't get into the political side of this. Just knowing who I am, it's shocking to me that you look at the education system, you look at the credentialing system that comes along with it, and it's just this cookie cutter, one size fits all. This is the rubber stamp seal of approval of all the research and science that we've done. And somehow it seems to me that a lot of these people are worshiping all the science. When you look back at it, you start understanding that the incentives that are there for the studies and the research, where does the money come from? And what does, as much as people have confirmation bias, oftentimes I find that they're looking for a certain result. And in my podcast episode I did for myself, I just kind of brought it up, like, why did they say margarine was better for you than butter? Where did that study come from? Why did they say that it was okay to go to high fructose corn syrup rather than just having natural cane sugar or honey or any other natural sweetener that's out there? I know we did raw milk in a couple of different places, and I had people warning me, oh my gosh, you're going to get listeria, you're going to die. And it's just like, it was awesome. I felt phenomenal. I didn't have the same gut issues with dairy that I did with the processed stuff. And it's just, there's so much misinformation out there that's even from the approved opinion that it's hard. And I respect anybody kind of going on the outside and working in a different way. And I look at it from more of a holistic perspective and find that it's an issue that people are trying to specialize so much in these things. And then you're only really paid and can go down the path of the cure rather than being able to spend money and have people who are experts at the prevention of it. And so one of the ideas that I had, and even in my earlier podcast, and just this whole idea of why I want to talk about is that ounce of prevention is worth more than that pound of cure that you can get from it, right? So I just wanted to kind of draw that out a little bit more. And I certainly applaud you for going outside of that system. I certainly think that
it's hard. I mean, it's hard on my ego, but I'm just trying to stay true. And because some of the stuff I've tried to go places and get an internship for free. You don't even need to pay me. I just want the experience. And they're like, sorry, you're not a registered dietitian. I'm like, no, but I have a lot of other experience and a lot of other angles. I don't know, it's just frustrating to me because there's a lot of great registered dietitians out there, but there's also a lot of not so great, just like any field. So it's like, I don't know. It fires me up a little bit.
It does me too. You don't have to get me going too much on that. It's a whole nother thing. So I'm going to hit the last few questions here. These are kind of burst fire questions. We've already addressed one of them about what the toughest thing kind of being a business owner is. So I'll skip that one. But what resource do you think has helped you the most in your particular field and in starting a business?
Sure. I will touch, because I looked down at my, I made some notes before we got started just of things that I wanted to touch on. And I will touch on one of the things that I do think is the hardest real quick that I didn't mention is carrying all the hats. You are the marketing person. You are the IT person. You are the creative outlet. All of that has almost made me quit so many times. My husband's my biggest encourager, and he always tells me, you got this, you can do this. I'm like, but you don't understand. Like, it's coming up with content. It's coming up with how to market it in the right way. And just like we talked about earlier, the answer is just doing it. Find out what you're good at, find out what you like. And over time, you can make other people do it. If you get the resources to do so, once you find out what you're good at, but you don't really know what you're good at in the beginning either. I found out that I'm really good on like creating graphics and like the creative side of it. And that's what I enjoy, So I just want to touch on that. That is definitely one of the hardest things. Let's see, what was the actual question that you asked me though?
So what resource has helped you the most?
Okay. Let's see. The program that I did has a ton of resources. They have a lot of things that set you up for success. They have, they have live Zooms every week, so you can jump on that. So it's always educational based. So always learning a lot from there. But in terms of other resources, it's a lot about exploring. Something as simple for marketing as Canva. Canva, I used a free version of it forever and then finally went pro, and it's mind blowing. You can save your colors, your scheme, your branding scheme, upload your icon, all that kind of stuff. And honestly, when I figured out Canva, it took my pictures, my everything like up a notch. And it's not everything. I mean, I'm a perfectionist in some ways. So I do want things to look pretty and all of that. And I do think it adds that level of professionalism, but it does, it just makes you stand out. It really does. So I think that's a big thing, as well as another thing on that with pictures and stuff is Lightroom. I pay for a Lightroom subscription on my phone, so that way I can kind of brighten up and touch up my photos. And again, it's just a simple act of just trying to, just stand out a little bit more. So I guess those are my two biggest things that I use for marketing that I really feel like, besides being consistent, besides showing up, besides doing everything else, like really makes you stand out.
Yeah, for sure. So last kind of burst fire question here. What do you think holds an individual? So those military members, those spouses, those veterans, those dependents, what do you think holds them back from getting started in business or in whatever endeavor that they might feel passionate about?
I think it's just knowing that change is upon them. Knowing that, okay, it's January, I have a PCS date for May. So right away, their brain doesn't go towards creative and, jumpings and trying something new. Their brain goes towards the checklist of, okay, 3 months out, I got to do this. 2 months out, I got to do this. 1 month, it's this. And then that on the other end, you have the same process. Okay, within the first month, it's a good 6 months spread, 3 on one side, 3 on the other minimum, to really get you back going. So I think what holds people back is just where it falls, especially in the military world, where it falls in your PCS, especially if you have kids, and then you then have to figure out a daycare and a school and all that kind of stuff. I think that's one of the biggest things is just change is upon you. So you're fearful and trying to start something else while you're doing one thing. So.
Yeah, no, that's good. Well, I know you've taken some notes. Is there anything else that you wanted to address before we conclude?
No, that's it. That was the biggest thing. I think, I just want to touch base on the hat thing, like wearing different hats, like being the HR, the IT, the marketing. And, that's something that I look forward to as I grow my business, bringing people on board and helping and dishing out.
Right. Well, I guess the last question that I have for you is, where can people find more info about you and your business?
Sure. So I have a website. It's an LLC. It's a company. It's wealthfullybalance.com. And I'm on Instagram as Tina.Grone, Grone. And on Facebook, I have a private Facebook group. It's Tina Grone Nutrition and Wellness. And I guess those are my platforms. Those are my angles right now at this time. I am going to take the next couple of months to really hunker down and build some more content before the baby comes. Yeah, I won't give any teasers, but I have a lot coming up. I'm really excited for next year because I'm going to spend the next 4 or 5 months or so before the baby comes, just really getting some stuff down. As I get closer to having a baby, my work will slow down and I'll be able to kind of do this other stuff on the side.
Yeah. So is all that stuff, especially that group that's there, is someone able just to request information for the group or acceptance into that group without having to be a client per se?
Yes, it's a free group.
Awesome.
They will just ask to join, and then there's a couple questions like, How do you know about the group? Who told you about it? Blah blah blah, and then I'll accept.
Yeah, fair enough.
I kind of try to get to some of the spam.
Yeah, fair enough. No, I get that. Well, awesome. Well, hopefully, as people start listening to this show and they start sharing the show, that they will, find a lot of your content that's out there. I'll make sure I put some of that stuff in the show notes. And Tina, thank you so much for coming by the Cashflow Veteran Podcast.
Absolutely.
I appreciate it.
Thanks for having me on board, John.
All right, no problem.